Well, folks, what a week it's been for that despicable virus. No, I speak not of COVID-19, but rather of something that is perhaps far more insidious: cancel culture. Indeed, it used to be a hallmark of a communist regime to endlessly rewrite history. So it would be that an individual who was once hailed as heroic would suddenly fall into disrepute and then vilified as a no-goodnik due to regime change. Down would go the statues and the portraits, as this suddenly reimagined individual would be forever purged from the lexicon. Indeed, this was the bailiwick of George Orwell's 1984. The protagonist, Winston Smith, is employed by the Records Department of the Ministry of Truth. His job forever entails rewriting the party line narrative of current events and history itself. His homeland of Oceania is and has always been at war with East Asia, and Oceania's ally is and always has been Eurasia, until political climate change occurs, and then the precise opposite is true vis-a-vis the ally-enemy narrative. Indeed, there is a part in the novel in which Winston Smith, who has written and rewritten history so often that he actually forgets which nation was the original ally and the original enemy of Oceania. Now, if anything, Orwell was indeed prescient when it came to today's cancel culture in the real world. But the thing is, it isn't necessarily government leading the charge. Rather, the primary enemy is a generation or two of uber-sensitive types who pray at the altar of wokeness. These bubble-wrapped snowflakes and cantankerous Karens look at everything through a politically correct lens. And if it means taking a deep dive to find offenders making offensive comments in yesteryear, hey, they've got the time. I imagine there's precious little else to do when one is residing in mom's basement, sipping a gluten-free latte while endlessly surfing the internet. Now, one of the latest victims of cancel culture is ex-Las Vegas Raiders coach Jon Gruden. It was recently reported that in 2011, yes, a decade ago, Jon Gruden wrote to then Washington Redskins executive Bruce Allen. Gruden, who was then working for ESPN, called NFL Players Association President DeMaurice Smith as Dumb Boris Smith, and Gruden also wrote that Smith, who is black, has, quote, lips the size of Michelin tires, end quote. Now, were Gruden's comments from yesterdecade inappropriate and even downright racist? Yes. Does he deserve to be penalized for those comments? Perhaps. But when it comes to crime and punishment, does he deserve a life sentence? Definitely not. Whatever happened to an appropriate penalty for a particular crime? Today, if one says something in the public square and the Twitterverse that is perceived to be even remotely transphobic or homophobic or racist or sexist, etc., 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 the knee-jerk response is similar to the phrase used during the French Revolution, namely, off with their head. But is this fair? Is this just? Especially in the land of the First Amendment. I can remember a time when a broadcaster, upon saying something that was deemed inappropriate, would publicly apologize and or receive a suspension of perhaps a few days or even a few weeks. Then we would all collectively move on. Now a single perceived transgression against a particular protected group is unforgivable, and it demands a career death sentence. And yet, just consider how our criminal justice system works. Even those who commit first-degree murder are afforded a second chance. Unless deemed to be a dangerous offender, which is very rare, even a first-degree murderer goes free after a 25-year prison sentence. The idea is that the offender has paid their price to society and that everyone, even someone who has taken another person's life, deserves a second chance. But in 2021, if one commits a thought crime, even a thought crime from yesterdecade, there are no second chances. That's how we roll today.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.